welcome back to my channel. My name is Molly, aka the Bibliophile Blonde, which you have probably figured out by now. It's August. It is late August. So let's talk about what I read in July, shall we? This month was absolutely crazy. I had a manuscript due to my editor for my next book, which was due on August 15th. So the first 2 weeks of August were 100% focused on me getting that manuscript, A, finished, B, kind of proofread. Most of my editor's job is, of course, editing, so she does a lot of the proofreading, but of course, I have to read it all the way through at least once before I send it to her. So that was most of August, which means I'm now doing what I read in July on August like 21st, and it's gonna be even later than that by the time this goes up, and then in like probably a week I'm gonna film what I read in August. That's okay. I read a lot in August. Once again, I used Storygraph. If I'm looking off screen, it's because I have my Storygraph pulled up. I did a lot of reading on my Kindle and my Kindle app. So I only have like 3 books in my physical collection that I got through, which made me a little upset because I have been trying over these past few months to really cut down on my physical TBR. I'm gonna be doing a separate video about this, but I did recently just buy the 1000th book in my collection, which makes and means that this is now an official library by the New York Times standard. 1,000 books means it is a home library, not just a collection. So I've been trying to cut down on my physical TBR because it's a lot, because I have not read all 1,000 that I own. So I looked at my list and I was like, really? I only read 3 physical books when I was like going through my shelves to pull the ones from the video. But yeah, so let's start with those. What I read in July. I posted a video about this. I'll link it right up here, right up there, wherever it goes. There's already several minutes of Discord of me talking about this, so you don't need more. It was fine. This book was such a smashing success. This is The City of Lost Fortunes by Brian Camp. It is a fantasy magical realism that is set in New Orleans. More specifically, it is a modern New Orleans, which is a post-Katrina New Orleans. This book means everything to me. Once again, you can see there are so many tabs. His writing style, I would really encourage you, if you read this, take the time to read it. It is not a fast read. It is something that you savor slowly. This is not fast food. I love fast food. You know I'm going to get some McNuggets right after I finish recording this video, but that is neither here nor there. This is something that you have to peruse every single sentence, but the reward and the payoff is rich. His writing style is truly something like I have never really encountered before. It is so good. Some of his sentences just absolutely took my breath away. It tells the story of Jude Dubuisson, who lives in New Orleans and, long story short, gets tangled up in this world of gods and the afterlife, and you know, we have a very reluctant chosen one trope that happens, and he ends up on a quest. Go figure. It's amazing. My family is from New Orleans. I was born in Indiana, but my dad's entire family is from New Orleans. Most of them still live there. My dad was born there. We went there almost every single year, you know, my entire childhood. It is a place that is super near and dear to me. So even if you don't like know a lot about New Orleans, like it's not like that's a deal breaker, but for those who do or have ever been, it is just a love letter to the city of New Orleans, and there are so many little things about it that I loved for that reason. Also, there's so many different mythologies in this. In Brian Camp's world building, when you die, basically all of the religions are true. So when you die, if you believed in the Greek afterlife, then there's Asphodel, you can go there. If you believed in the Egyptian afterlife, then the fields of Aru are there. That's where you can go. You see Anubis. And there's so many points where like one of the gods will pop up and he'll make a note of like, oh, you look like Anubis today. You don't look like, you know, Charon. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm this guy. So it's like all of the gods are the same, and then they just appear to other people based on like what they personally believed. So it's really, really cool because you go through and there's like all these different gates of the underworld, but it like mixes all of these Greek, ancient Egyptian, voodoo and hoodoo, Roman Catholic, there's angels and demons, like all of the religions come together and like they're all true, which is amazing because he goes through and he encounters Papa Legba, he encounters, like I said, Anubis, Hermes. There's so many. Amit is in this. Like there's just, it's so many. So for like a mythology lover, it's super fucking fun. I typically promote fantasy romance, so I will get asked if this is a fantasy romance. It is not. It is strictly a magical realism fantasy, but absolutely 5 stars, one of my favorites. In August, I read the sequel. They can be read as standalones. There's no cliffhanger. This is, you know, but there is a second in the world. But I will talk about that in the August video, which like I said, I'll be recording in just a couple days. I also finally listened to, I should say, Serpent and Dove. This has been on my list since I joined Bookstagram, you know, years ago, or only really a year ago actually, and everybody was talking about Serpent and Dove. You know, there's a quote from Sarah J. Maas on the cover, and a lot of people told me that they were disappointed by it. A lot of people said like, oh, it's super dull, like they didn't like it, I don't think that you'll like it. Here's the thing, it's YA. I knew that going in, so like I'm good with the fact that there's no spice in this. Like I think that was something a lot of people told me, like, oh, it's YA, like you're gonna be really bored, whatever. I don't want spice in my YA novels. I don't want that explicitly. I don't want to read about that with minors. Absolutely not. Hard pass, no thank you. So I thought this was adorable. It was amazing. The characters are not minors. I think they're like 19 whatever, but like it's a YA book, so it's written for a younger audience. This was so cute. One, I love the fact that like she's the evil one and like the goody two shoes is the guy, because so often you see like the guys, like, you know, the bad boy. I love that the bad guy in this, the villain, is the church. Big fan of that personally. And you know, there's witches that are being prosecuted. Like I just loved it. The audiobook's really well done, so maybe I would have been bored if I read it, maybe, who knows, but listening to the audiobook was an absolute win for me. I loved it. I finished Gods and Monsters, no, finished the second one, no, this is Serpent and Dove. Blood and Honey, Gods and Monsters, I think I'm getting those right. It's behind me, let me see. Yeah, Blood and Honey, I finished that one, but I'll talk about that one in August too. But spoiler alert, I didn't hate it. A lot of people then also told me if I liked this one, I'd hate the second one, and I didn't hate the second one. I thought it was fine. Okay, now let's go through my story graph and look at all of the unhinged KU things that I read. Just kidding. I read The Beast by Jenica Snow. That was great. Woke some stuff up in me that I didn't want to know. That is like a Beauty and the Beast situation where he stays the beast. So a little monster romance for you. I also read Entreat Me by Grace Draven. This was my first novel from Grace Draven. She's great. She's an all-star in fantasy romance. Super well done. Another really good Beauty and the Beast adaptation. One of my favorite ones, especially in terms of originality. There's so many twists to the plot while keeping it really, really true to a Beauty and the Beast adaptation, but she made it her own in such a cool way. So Entreat Me by Grace Draven, also fantastic. Really recommend that. I read Sweet Berries, which is the sequel to Morning Glory Milking Farm, except it's with a moth man. And I learned that that's where my limit is. So it was well written, you know, the author's great, but it was not for me. And then I blazed through the Tales from Verania series by TJ Klune, which was just pure dopamine. That book series, it is fantasy romance. There's not a ton of spice, but there is spice. There are just a lot of like slow burns, but there is spice. But like, it is just so much dopamine. That's literally all I can say about it. I was laughing out loud at some points. It's so good. It's so sweet. It's such a great coming of age. I absolutely adored it. So 100% that whole series. It's like 5 books. You need to read them in order. You need to read the whole thing, like 1000%. It's great. Book 5 was my favorite. The Damning Stone, book 5 from that series. Absolutely amazing. One of the best like himbo boyfriends of all time. Like the male main character in that is like a Jason Momoa with a bunch of piercings. And yes, so good. Blazed through that. I also read The Point of No Return by Devin Sinclair. Whew. This will get its own video. This will get its own video, but it is a gargoyle reverse harem, and I never thought that I would say those words, but oh my God, it was one of my favorite things that I have read in a very long time because it has everything. Seriously, it has everything. I think I posted on my story and on my TikTok about like how many different like elements that this book has. It will get its own video. But oh my God, it was fantastic. So Point of No Return by Devin Sinclair was absolutely fantastic. I also loved Last Thing. I will say the Shifter's Curse series, which was also by Devin Sinclair. That's a 3-book series. It is a werewolf reverse harem, yes. And this woman, you know, learns that she is secretly a witch. She had no idea, and then she ends up with 3 werewolves. It's a reverse harem. Fated mates, really great. One of them's Irish, one of them is Scottish, and one of them is British, which I just found like really kind of hilarious and wonderful that she just kind of like collected one of each. But that's a 3-book series. They're all on KU. I devoured it. You have to read them in order, and it is like a trilogy, so there are cliffhangers, but all 3 are available on KU. So they are perfect for a KU binge. Honestly, there were so many good reads this month. Really blazed through a lot by Devin Sinclair. Honorable mention, Lily Gold. I read a couple of her books as well. After Devin Sinclair, I was really hooked on a reverse harem kick, which I've never really been into that before. I always said it wasn't my thing, and turns out apparently it is. I just needed the right ones. So Devin Sinclair and Lily Gold, both on KU. Lots of good stuff with RH. Lily Gold's RH are normal like romances, and Devin Sinclair's tend to be like more monster P&R with like werewolves and gargoyles and stuff in there. Chef's kiss. So there you go. That's everything I read in July, just about. I'll put the full list in the description as well. Let me know what your favorite book was. I'll just say that you've read recently, because if I didn't have Storygraph, I would have already forgotten what I read in July, because it, like I said, it is late August and I'm finally getting around to do this video. So let me know what your current favorite read is down in the comments. I'm looking for some good stuff to add to my TBR. Ignore the physical TBR behind me. And I will talk to you guys later.